you so much for staying with us. The visuals from Libya, not quite encouraging, but at least the Super Eagles are back and all eyes, I repeat, on CAF to do the needful. But we focus on Nigeria's problems. So many of it here, security-wise, political-wise, economic-wise, the nation appear to be hanging on the cliff, and urgent actions, transformative, needed to really save the situation. The president acknowledges there is pain, but he says there are baby steps of pain that will move away very soon. The wife says, yes, there is pain, but my husband is not the cause of it. In 2 years' time, she was very specific, in 2 years' time, it will give way to boom and prosperity. Though the president hasn't been specific on when the turn of the tide will come for pains to go for pleasure. But let me welcome my guest for today, Adewole Adebayo, presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party in the last presidential election. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Dr. AMAECHI. How are you?
Very well. Has the pain got into you too, the hunger? Are you insulated from pain and hunger?
You know, as leaders, whatever our people go through, we go through it. The pain began to affect me even before the elections, because I already saw what was coming. And so it's the case of a doctor who can see that the patient has a cancer, even the patient is not aware.
So it's pre-psychological pain you have?
Exactly, because the doctor already starts feeling sympathy for the patient who doesn't know yet.
In other words, you saw this coming?
Well, not only did I see it coming, I said it, I was coming. And I said everywhere, including here in your studio and to you. And Nigeria has only one problem. Nigeria doesn't have many problems. All the problems they tell you about Nigeria, they are symptoms of one problem. And that one problem is bad governance.
You know what you have just said, this chord strikes in me. Chinua Achebe's book, The Trouble with Nigeria.
Exactly.
Is squarely that of leadership, he says.
Yes. Achebe was right and has always been right. And like Mrs. Tinubu said, the husband is not the cause of the problem. The husband is a symptom of the problem.
What do you mean by that?
Because a politics that could sum up all the challenges Nigeria is facing, sum up 16 years of PDP, sum up 8 years of Buhari, and conclude that Tinubu should be president. That kind of mindset is the problem. Because when you sum up the problems of the country, the journey we've taken so far, the challenges of the moment, you will choose leadership that meets the challenges of the moment. It is possible for anyone to be president, and anyone can be captain of a ship. But it's a question of the time. So maybe many years ago, 30 years ago, Tinubu could have been president, but not now. So we should try as much as possible to choose our leadership to meet the challenges of the time.
Why not now, the Tinubu's presidency?
Because to start with, there's no clear philosophy. And I don't want to make a play on words, but Emilokon is my turn, that is not a philosophy.
What of the Renewed Hope agenda?
Renewed Hope agenda, if you look at the content, when the renewal of hope starts with the removal of your roof over your head, removal of food from your mouth, removal of support for industry and for maintaining normal living, when it results in unemployment, when the method taken or chosen, the path chosen, is the most damaging of all the options. So you can see I've come to your studio now. For those who are familiar with my voice, I have a cold. So it's a normal situation that I have a cold. So there are 5 doctors. One says, go and have a rest. The other one says, take warm liquid. The other one says, want to do a brain surgery for me. The one who says, want to do a brain surgery for me for having catarrh is not qualified to be a doctor. because the problem he wants to give me is more than the problem that I have.
The solution he wants to give.
The solution he wants to give me is more than the problems that I have. It's worse. So he's risking my life. He's taking unnecessary measures. And that is what I see. Everything that brought us to where we are today were three major problems. One, Buhari, because of economic illiteracy and lack of awareness. You remember Buhari's mantra always, I'm not aware, I'm not aware. So he was not able to govern himself fiscally. So Buhari's government was always doing ways and means, borrowing, borrowing, borrowing. Second, they couldn't govern any proper administration. So the subsidy, which they said they were going to remove, ballooned out of proportion in their hand. Thirdly, they couldn't grow the GDP effectively. So these are simple problems you have all the time, from time to time. So but look at the solutions that Tinubu, Atiku, even the Peter Obi joined them. The solutions they don't make any economic sense, because the solution was that they were going to remove subsidy from a product that is a transcendental product. So nobody buys petrol to drink like wine. You will buy petrol to do some activity. Whether you travel for work, travel for other purposes. So it's a productive use of energy. Now, and it cuts across every field. Second, they were trying to say that they had a well supply side to our foreign exchange. Nothing more than that. In the sense that our foreign exchange has not grown in 30 years.
Rather, it was depleting.
Yes. So if you have a supply side, saying that you are going to float it, where is the supply going to come from? The assumption is that externalities, some external support will bring maybe foreign direct investment.
That was the hope, that
yes.
FDI will flow in.
Yes, but the FDI...
real investments will also flow in.
Yes, laying it.
And perhaps repatriation by the diaspora Nigerians.
Yes, so if you want to have a good home, having a nice bed sheet is one of them. But having a nice bed sheet won't guarantee that you have a nice home. Because if the roof is leaking, that bed sheet will not be nice over time. If the flooring is not done. So one of the tools you need to have foreign direct investment is a stable and predictable foreign exchange. But this alone is not enough.
The stability of the foreign exchange.
Yes, that one is one of the many, maybe about 21 ingredients that need to coexist before you can have foreign investment. So you need to have respect for contracts. You need to have rule of law. You need to have security. You need to train your manpower. You need to have a good justice system. You need to have lower costs of factors. So if I'm bringing my industry and I'm producing, like your good friend Aliko Dangote, how is he going to sell petrol to somebody who is in Sokoto? Are you telling me that in this 2024, anybody will conceive that you will be trucking petrol from Lekki in Lagos to Maiduguri?
About 1,000 kilometers away.
1,400 of bad roads. Then you will be trucking it to Calabar. You'll be trucking it to Sokoto, Ilela, and all those places. It doesn't make any sense. So these are the problems that we had. What did they came and worsened all of those things. So that's the problem that they have now. And that's why I feel bad that a very simple economic situation, that you need to take a few measures of government discipline. You didn't take any of that. You expanded the government beyond. Even in the prioritization of government expenditure, you are spending money on the least productive of items, and then you yank off support from the economy. You know that now they created the inflation, and they turned the CBN governor to Paul Volcker. So now he has to Volckerize the economy by raising interest rate, which automatically, the philosophy behind...
So that was a bid to lower inflation.
You caused inflation by yourself. So you knew the problem Paul Volcker had when he was appointed by Carter. The problem on ground was that Carter inherited from...
That's as chairman of the Federal Reserve?
Yes. So President Carter, when he came in, he inherited both from Nixon and Ford high inflation. And he thought, okay, the only way I can kill high inflation is to raise interest rates. Because cheap credit was driving the inflation. Our inflation in Nigeria is not driven by cheap credit. In fact, there's no sufficient banking penetration. And the lending capacity...
For the real sectors.
Yes, and the lending capacity of our banks is so small that even regional, local banks, community banks that are higher advised overseas have more money than the largest bank in Nigeria. So that is not what you are doing. And the intention of raising interest rates is that you will suffer one certain problem. You will shrink the economy by having recession to slow down prices. In Nigeria, you will spiral out of control because productivity will go so low, and supply side is your problem. So now, the reason why rice is selling for 180, 100 and something.
But sorry, but it appears
yes.
the continuous increase in rates
yes.
by the CBN is working. Look at the progress in inflation rate. Slightly went down during the last month under review. GDP for the last quarter under review improved slightly. So the government may argue is fetching the desired
This is
fruits.
where the problem lies. If you look at differential in inflation rate, look at the statistics. You will look at the component that drive the inflation. Those components that drive the inflation continue to drive the inflation. Every component that was driving inflation is still driving inflation. And if you look at the amount of rate increase, how many basis points did you increase the rate, versus how many points did you drop in inflation? Second, if you look at the GDP is rising essentially as a result of the nominal increases in the price of factors. So somebody who gave you 10 loaves of bread at 100 naira each was contributing 1,000 naira to the GDP. When the bread becomes 2,000 per loaf, he will say it's contributing 200,000 or 20,000 to the GDP. It's just nominal increase because of factor price rising. And then you are not, if your GDP is rising, it should reflect in your employment. It's not reflecting the employment. So I think we should just come to the conclusion that they've taken very wrong measures.
In other words, you're saying that the GDP growth rate is not trickling down.
It's not trickling. There are two problems with it that's obvious. I don't want to say things that are controversial, that will sound political. One is that your GDP in the absolute, don't take the difference, the marginal increase in your GDP. You must adjust against marginal increase in your population. So because if the rate of growth of the population is higher than that of your GDP, you have negative GDP. And there's no need to waste your time on that. Then if you look at the illusion of money, so if you look at the illusion of money, because you must calculate your GDP relative to stability. So we don't have we don't have sufficient gold reserve, with which you can use to measure it. So you probably use the US dollar to measure it. You have to also understand another thing, that the US dollar itself is under some unusual inflationary pressure, which is they have managed a bit up to now, but they're trying to lower it just a bit. So you will see that when you adjust against the nominal increase in the arbitrage, the foreign exchange differential, when you adjust against the official dollar inflation rate, what have you done? Then you now just oppose that one against population growth. That's why you see people's faces. Nobody is smiling at you at all in the economy. So that's where the problem lies. And even if the government say, oh, maybe I'm exaggerating what's going on the street, how well can they fund their own programs and fund their own budgets? So that's where the problem lies. So we need to fundamentally rethink the economy. They've made serious mistakes, and they need to...
The president doesn't think so. For his major policies and programs, he had consistently said no reversal.
Well, he can say no reversal for two reasons. One, you know, there was a time in this country, I think it was Shivolufalai in 1986.
As SGF?
Yeah, who said there was no alternative to SAP. So if you limit your thinking, and you have a tunnel vision about the economy, you will come and say there's no alternative. There's always alternative. The study of economy
Of
is
course.
to teach you
I
alternative.
recall some African political economists came up with this alternative framework to the structural adjustment program and
Exactly.
proved to the regime that there were several homegrown alternatives that could have indeed solved the problem of shocks in the economic system. And talking of alternatives, you rightly said the other presidential candidate during the campaigns for the 2023 presidential elections, the Labour Party candidate, PDP candidate, APC candidate, all promised that they will remove subsidy and float the currency. The two, LP and PDP, are saying we would have done it differently. We would have brought in safeguards. That's what this administration failed to do. But I know you did not go that way.
No.
You presented other alternatives. And
Yes.
when we come back from this short break, we interrogate those alternatives you put on the table and see how it would have worked in the Nigerian situation.
And they will still work when we put them.
The Supreme Court has an unfinished task as far as local government autonomy is concerned, because stopping at this level doesn't really guarantee that autonomy, because other vestiges that have made local government an appendage of the state government are still there.
Such as?
As I've told you, Section 7, subsection 3C, you find out that it says that, apart from saying that a system of democratically elected local governments under this constitution established, it said accordingly, it's the duty of the state government to see to the existence, the structure, the financing, and the administration of local government. This thing is a strong limitation to local government autonomy. Something has to be done about it, and nothing has been done about it. And that's why the State Assembly will still be harassing them, so long as that very section remains. You see a situation where local government stays. The Director of Finance, Head of Personnel, all the staff are state staff. They are paid with the resources of local government, but they are not responsible to the chairman, the chief executive. So their loyalty lies with the state government. So the state government still control local government through constitutional bottlenecks. And so it is not yet.
So ab initio, you will use a constitution tied local government to the prawn strings of state
I've already said so. The constitution, that's the very constitution that gave birth to local government as a third tier of government, equally remove the power from the local government to be an autonomous entity. It makes local government an appendage, and that is why governors are making, they determine who becomes chairman. They determine everything. Even now that it states, Supreme Court has also directed that the election should be conducted. State governors are determining who will contest. And this is not.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Prince Adewole Adebayo ran for the presidency in 2023, and he came out with a manifesto that projected different alternatives to removal of fuel subsidy and floating of the currency. Thank you so much for staying with us. How would that apply, and apply positively, if you had won the election?
You see, this is what we ought to have done. This is what we should do now. When we come in, this is what we will do. The first thing to do in the economy is to realize that there's a lot of wealth trapped in the talent and the energy of the people. So the first thing you need to do is to target reduction of unemployment to single digits. In fact, the reason why monetary economics is allowed is that the fundamental objective of monetary economics is to achieve full employment, not only of persons, of labor, but of all factors of production, so that you have allocative efficiencies that are clearly going to make you want to invest any money you have in the economy and get people employed. That is the focus. And there are 5 areas we mentioned. We mentioned that agriculture is number 1, not only because it employs the highest number of people, is a low-hanging fruit, easy to start. Any person with a tractor, with a bucket, with anything can start agriculture.
In 3 months, you're harvesting.
Exactly. It's scalable, so you can now go into producing raw materials, producing other things that are additives, and is the foundation of other economics. It's also going to make sure that you govern your territory. You are now in full control of your land. You cannot be dodging and jiving the way they are doing, where Nigeria is sharing sovereignty with bandits, where large swaths of land and different territories across Nigeria are not under the control of government.
And this tells you that this expansion of agricultural activity is tied to security situation.
Yeah, yes, because that will force you to be in control of the land. So the problem will be solved that way. You create employment, you will solve the problem of food. And if you look at the weight, the incidence of food prices.
Food inflation.
Yes, in the entire aggregate of inflation, you will see if you have that, it comes down. Second, you have to invest in infrastructure. And investment in infrastructure means that you don't want people to do for themselves as individuals, things that we can all do collectively. So you want to make sure that when people are traveling from one end of the country to the other, they don't have to travel with their own vehicle. Because you have public transport by way of public buses, boats, and canoe. If you are crossing Ibi, if you go to Ibi in the Taraba State, and you want to cross over to Nasarawa or Benue or thereabout, you will see that it's private people who are using antiquated badges to carry people. When I went to campaign, they were the one using their old. There's no investment from NIWA or Ministry of Transportation or anybody, or even the state government.
Absolutely.
So,
I wanted to ask even state government.
They are not interested. So you are not putting. So if you do that, people will not be circumlocuting to carry their farm products from Nasarawa, towards the northeast, or from Maiduguri down to Taraba, bringing their goods here. I'm a cattle farmer, and each time we want to carry our cattle from one location to another, it's a massive operation. We don't have a train station where we can drive the cattle to, and they will be there and in the stockade and be being carried. And when I was in Argentina inspecting farms, this is a given. You just call them, they take them to the station. No infrastructure. So the same thing with human transportation, all of that is not there. And then in our cities, most workers will tell you that at least half of their salaries are spent on transportation. There's no city transport. None of them is being done. So you spend money on that one. Then you fulfill.
Except Lagos and maybe one.
Lagos is doing minuscule compared to the population. So, but they are traveling in that direction. Very
but
slow.
they're expanding apart from the rapid, the blue rail, the red line upcoming.
No, they haven't even matched Jakande's level where I was growing up in Lagos. They have not even, they are backward from where Jakande is, but they are better than their other colleagues whose records are totally abysmal. But they need to reach the level of Jakande, where LSTC in those days, anywhere you were, you'll be able to get the bus. So compared to, say, Abidjan, for example, you see how efficient that one in Abidjan is. So they need to do that, and that needs to be done. Then we go into the sector of health. You need to give people good health, and you need to build rural health facilities. This will employ people. This will keep people healthy and make them more productive. You need to totally make social investment in education. So many of the cases of unemployment that we are dealing with, in our time, will be rapidly dealt with by recruiting teachers. But the problem of the governors, even with all the money that they are making now, is that they don't want to employ people. Because when they employ, there's less discretionary spending. Because employment, you must pay. You are bound by contract and by statute
and
to pay.
Pay a minimum wage.
Yes, so you must pay. So they don't want workforce, any workforce. Even in some states, rather than increase this compensation for their staff, they say come twice a week.
Work virtually.
Yes, so what happens to social services? Who is going to fix your potholes? Who's going to do all of that? So this is the problem. You need to create wealth out of the people. Remember that when government pays salaries to workers, the money doesn't stay with them.
It's the productive, aggregate productive activities of the people that will drive the economy.
Exactly.
But let's come to those twin issues of fuel subsidy and floating of the currency. If you had won, you would not have removed fuel subsidy.
No, not at all.
What would you have done?
It's very simple. Look at the costing. I'm taking their numbers so that they won't say I'm second guessing. when the noise first came out, it was under Jonathan, President Jonathan. At that time, he was traveling towards $1 trillion. And people were saying, what? $1 trillion for subsidy? At the time, 1.8 trillion. Then when President Buhari came, despite saying, I'm going to remove it, he traveled all the way to 4 trillion in the budget. But there was some transparency in the lies that they were telling, in the sense that you had to budget it in the book. It was there in the book. So then when we were campaigning, everybody was saying, all the neoliberals were saying, if we're not careful, it will come to about 8 trillion. I said, okay, these are 3 things I'm going to do. One, if we audit our consumption, generally we don't consume even up to 2 trillion. If we audit our consumption at the old price that it was. Second, if we just get our refineries to work, the reason why refineries are not working, Nigerians need to know, is that the government doesn't want them to work.
Explain further.
Because, let me give you a simple explanation. When you are trying to repair an existing refinery, but you have not finished repairing it, but somebody else got architect to draw the map and drawings of a refinery, went to negotiate land in many places, got the land, started constructing, finished construction, is selling, and you haven't repaired the one that was already in existence. What does that tell you? It tells you that the priority is to make sure those things don't work.
Is it within the government? Interest within the government does not want it to work, or is it interest within NNPC?
NNPC is part of the government, and nobody gets appointed in NNPC without the government. It's a government agency. So you can call NNPC, call all of this. The idea is that they don't want to run government, and they don't want to run an economy. They are fighting to take control of the petroleum market. So they see you as AMAECHI and ANAKWUE, the customer, not the citizen. They don't want to be responsible for ensuring that you have a good life, you can train your children, you can go to work and use only 7% of your salary to pay for transport. They say, this man is a journalist, is anywhere, let me take as much money from his pocket as possible by increasing the price of what he needs, which is petrol. The same thing they will do to you when you want to put your child in school. They will tell the school, increase school fees. They don't think that, okay, this man has a PhD in economics. At a minimum, if he has 4 children, each of them should have a PhD funded by the state. No. They want to extract your wealth for you to train 1 or 2 of your children to even get school cert. The money you will spend is more than all your generation, ancestral generation has spent.
Absolutely.
To even get a degree, to finish your education. So I pay for my children in 1 term than all my siblings combined.
While you were in school?
When we were in school, from elementary school
my one-time payment for one of my child in school covered all I did from primary to doctorate.
That's it. So that's the kind of country they want to turn us to. That was not if the country was like that, none of these people would have led the farm where their ancestors were farming. So this is the problem they want to create. They want to make living a 2-bedroom flat in Maitama, Asokoro to look like you have won lottery. Whereas even as recently as Shagari, we were building housing everywhere. Even when Jakande was Minister of Works for Abacha, he built Gwarinpa, the largest estate.
That's the social service in
They are not
governance.
interested. These people are not in government. They are in business, and they get occasionally distracted by governmental duties, and they get annoyed.
So link it up with
Yes.
the refusal, you say, of government to allow refineries work.
Because they need to create scarcity. These refineries were built years ago. The first one was part of our first development plan, the Port Harcourt refinery, which was Balewa. Then Gawan came, we started building the second train of Port Harcourt. Then we built Warri. But that's how Obasanjo had taken over, and we did Kaduna. The idea was that we will be building more because we are an energy-rich country. And we were not supposed to be worried about the small quantity being consumed in Nigeria. If we had productivity, which we're consuming like maybe 1 million barrels a day, that's not an issue. We were supposed to be exporting. So even the little part that we're using for domestic consumption will not be the main essence of government. How many refineries are in Singapore? And all these story people are telling you, refinery, go to the refinery market. If you spend just $2 billion, $3 billion, you will build a good refinery. People call bogus figures here because government is involved and they try to siphon the money. So it's an old technology, distillation. The refineries that are in the Gulf of Bayou since 1900, those ones in Pennsylvania, 1903, they are still working. So what is new about refinery? So this is the problem that go anywhere, talk to chemical engineers, the largest and most complex catalytic cracking unit. How much will it cost? If you have to go and get it designed for you from the beginning. So this is the problem. So don't let us pretend as if we don't know that we are being captured. And our brothers and sisters in government who capture us want to squeeze us like oranges, squeeze the juice out of everybody, and then publicly discuss where there's nothing more. So that is what they want to do. They want to remove economic participation. That's why...
Yes, taxes are increasing. The chairman of the Committee on Revenue saying just yesterday, the rich may pay as much as 25% on personal income tax. Price of utilities going up, price of commodities going up. But what the government is telling us is that they want to use this money and invest in productive ventures.
No, they can't. You see, Adewole Adebayo, government come and tax me, I'm ready to pay 50% of my income in taxes. I don't mind. After all, in Norway, it's higher than that. But I am spending billions, literally, to power my productive sectors, the productive enterprises. So if I don't have to pay school fees, in America, my children I don't pay school fees. They just live, and the school board is waiting for them. So I'm ready to give you 60% of my money or my income. Take it. But give me education, give me health, give me security, give me transportation. I spent 2 weeks in London. I never knew where any car was. Out of my door, I take the bus, I go to the train station, I go for my meeting.
Same in New York, back. Same in major world capitals.
So it's like that. I've gone to a meeting with the CEO of Mercedes. I'm just giving an example. We both took underground, London Underground, even though that's the person who makes the cars. So, but you are forcing everybody to say, my aim in life, my hope in life is to buy a car. Because if you don't, rain will beat you, you will suffer in the mud, you will be able to pick your children. So they're not investing in any of those things. So that's the problem. You can take all the taxes, but you cannot pauperize us, take the taxes, not be responsible for anything. If I want to set up an industry, where are the industrial zones being created? Where is the energy being taken there? That is the problem. And I want to say this. Anybody who tells you that we should remove subsidy from an underdeveloped economy where productivity is low has F9 in economics. Because even in the advanced economies, one thing is clear. Let me give you just 3 geographical spreads. In China, you, AMAECHI and ANAKWUE today, if you have up to $10,000 in your savings, you can have a factory in China. All you need to do is demonstrate to the city or to the federal government there that I am producing this flask. If they see the production plan, they will give you a factory on credit. They will give you all the support. You start paying back. That's not available in Nigeria. That's why China is the largest producer of finished goods, because of that subsidy. You don't have to pay land, no money, no landlord, no CFO, no nothing. Now, and you don't have to be in China, even if you are overseas. I'm in New York, they're telling me there's some factory we're building, do you want to come there? So that's subsidy. If you go to the US, what's the first thing they welcome you with? A letter, say, come and borrow money. So sometimes the Federal Reserve gives money to banks at negative interest to force them to lend to people. Remember TAP, when Bush put TAP in 2009 when the economy was collapsing. The only prayer between the president and the Federal Reserve chairman was, I hope the banks will lend the money. And banks were calling people, come and take money. During COVID, I was here in Nigeria, and when I go back to the US, I got stack of letters awarding me money, take money, going to give money to my law firm, come and claim. So
their business is got a lot.
So they are subsidizing with credit. If you go to Europe, they are subsidizing with social services. You, who are the employer of labor, you're not the one who If your worker is sick, you're not the one to pay. Because every worker, every citizen has life insurance, has health insurance, has other social services. So it is cheaper to hire labor there because you don't have to pay for all of these things that they are paying for. Now, tell me, come back to my beloved Nigeria. What is it that is the incentive for productivity? Nothing. So you cannot compete. So that is why the little thing that people were enjoying, that because we are a petroleum-rich country, we should now have low energy cost. That is what will drive you to say, okay, in Nigeria, the industry I'm having is energy intensive. So let me go to Nigeria where
And
energy cost
take advantage of that.
Yes, but if you have no advantage,
you see companies go to Southeast Asia to take advantage of cheap labor.
Yes.
Go here to take advantage of that.
you must have something that it brings people here. You cannot have a society where there's no advantage. That if you, however patriotic you are, you put your industry in Nigeria, it costs you 7 times just to put it elsewhere. And you'll be forcing yourself to say, I'm a patriot, I have to put it here.
Some offer free taxes, tax holidays.
Tax holiday is one of the ways by which they steal our money. Somebody will do 100-kilometer poorly done cement road, very narrow, not standardized, and they give him billions. That road can be done by local government. So collect your taxes.
So what you're saying in effect is that is the mindset of those that emerge as leaders, the approach they bring it into government, the objective
They don't
that will
want to
determine their performance.
They don't want to emerge as leaders. They want to take control of the tap of money. They don't want to lead you. If you are leading, you look back sometimes to see whether people are following you. So if you are leading me in economy, you should see whether I'm following you. If you are leading me in politics, look at where I'm following you.
That's state capture.
They don't want to, yes, this is a case of doing to you what the colonial master was planning to do, where Jaja Opobo was fighting, Nana Shekiri was fighting, Overa was fighting, everybody fighting. That no, you cannot come to our place and exploit us. That's why Madam Tinubu has a statue in Lagos. So say you can't come to this place.
No, in Ife.
You know, Tinubu is Lagos, Tinubu Square.
Okay.
So say you can't come here.
Okay, Lady Tinubu.
Yes, you can't come here and exploit us. But we are not being exploited by Onyocha or white people now. You are being exploited by your own people who are exporting your money overseas because they want their name to appear in one book, the richest person in town. So that is the problem. The governance is not taking place. And for governance not to take place, they are recruiting as many people as possible who are not interested in governance, who are just interested in, okay, there's some profit center here. I'll cover it for you. So you are the one who do all the business there, do everything there. And then governance will leave that one to decide. We need to stop that because we are growing a large population that needs to be productive, that needs to express their talent. We need to form a government that gives supporting service. The essence of government is to give you backing, to push you as you are going forward.
Many fear there's a tipping point to all this.
Now, you see, I don't want us to reach a tipping point. Also because in Nigeria, tipping point is a mirage. You would think, people will never accept 500 naira per liter. They accepted 1,000 plus. And they are going towards 2,000 without anybody stopping them. So if dollar crosses 500, we are finished. We haven't finished. It has crossed to almost 2,000. It's now 1,007. And they are still pushing it because the actual price of naira to dollar based on supply and demand is probably around 2,200 or thereabout. So CBN is trying to hold it, and when the thing snaps, all that potential energy will become kinetic. The thing will fly. So we need to govern. That's the summary. If anyone wants to capture what I'm saying today, you cannot escape the challenges of the modern times by not having a government. And so far,
That's a responsible and responsive government.
you have to have a government. And if you are not responsible and responsive, you cannot manage human resources, economic resources, security resources, you are not a government. You are just businessmen alias government. Because when you wake up in the morning, you do what governments do. Government accounts, I keep telling people, any government that cannot help you find your missing dog or missing cat, after a while, they won't be able to find a missing child. After a while, they won't be able to find a missing town. After a while, a whole meeting community will go. That is why you, in some country, you wonder, why is it that somebody's dog is missing? Police will come. They are letting you know that if you can care for your dog, we'll care for you too. So
In,
that's what the
in
government does.
Nigeria, whole regions have been cut off.
Yes.
And have been lost, literally,
Yes.
because they have taken over by
But there is no
bandits.
government, and those people going to Eagle Square to hold the Bible or the Quran and say a few words, salute police, and disappear into the shadows does not make you a government. You must now stop, form a government, and the government cannot be asking about, are we there? You will know government in your life. You will see that government is there in your life.
You
because-
feel government
Yes, you will
with
feel
all
it.
your senses.
You will feel it because you
Okay.
will see that I would not have been where I am today if not for the government. I would have been lost today if not for the government. This child that I rushed to the hospital will have died if not for the government. You will have been seen every day. If you have a car crash, you will say, I will have died here even because of road safety.
Ambulance
so
and all that.
all of that, that is
Okay.
what, and the person will say, I will have not succeeded elsewhere in my business, if not because of this country.
So what?
That's why we need to give this country a chance.
That's what Adewole Adebayo is saying, that we need leaders who are transformative and not transactional. It's up to you, Nigerians. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you,
us
and
today.
God bless Nigeria.
Thank you also for being part of it. My name is AMAECHI, and we'll have a good time.